Jai Hind everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I welcome you to today's session where I'll walk you through the GAT examination paper 2024, the English section. As we proceed, I'll tell you the answers, the correct answers, so you can check for people who have appeared. You can check actually if you've attended it right or not. And as I tell you the answers, I'll also tell you the formula or why exactly there are certain things happening in the question paper the way they are, right? So without wasting a single minute, let's just dive into the question. So the first part, as you might see in here, the first part, which is part A, is basically comprehension. So I thought it was not really a very valid and justifiable for me to read out a whole paragraph to you in the video itself. So I have basically filtered out the sentences which were in which had the answers to the question asked in here. So as you might see, the first question says which one of the following does not belong to the biotic community, and the options are basically water, human, protozoa, and bush, right? So this is the first the sentence that basically will tell you about it. So as you might see, as the sentence reads as well, the grouping or assemblage of plants, animals, and microbes we observe when we study a national forest, a grassland, a pond, a coral reef, or some undisturbed area is referred to as the area's biota or biotic community. So plants and animals are there. So thus water, human, and protozoa are basically the things which can be termed under these heads. But bush is something which might not be an appropriate thing to go with. So thus bush is the right answer. For question number 2, the nature of the biotic community largely depends on, so this is the line which I think had the answer to this. The particular kind of biotic community found in a given area is in a large part determined by the abiotic factors, right? So the nature of the biotic community largely is dependent on abiotic components and abiotic factors of that place. So abiotic components is the right answer, and this answer we were instructed to select the correct answer from the codes given below, so I have selected B, which is 2 only, right? Proceeding with the questions, which of the following is not an abiotic factor? So this is the line that tells us about it. So you see, it's written that the particular kind of biotic community found in a given area is largely, in large part determined by abiotic factors. Abiotic factors, by abiotic factors as it reads, such as the amount of water or moisture present, the temperature, the salinity, or the type of soil in the area, right? So you see in the question itself, it covers almost all of them: temperature, humidity, moisture also is mentioned in here. But what it does not have in the list is algae, right? So algae is the right option because algae is not something which is an abiotic factor. Going to our next question, in the passage the word aquatic community refers to, so we don't really need to require a passage to understand what exactly an aquatic community might just refer to, because the word aquatic comes from the word aqua, which actually refers to water. So thus it makes it inevitably the option which has the word water in it. So biotic community found in water is basically what aquatic community mean. Speaking about the last question that we have from the paragraph is, species are defined on the basis of, so you see this is the line that reads it. So as you might see in here, a given species includes all those individuals which have a strong similarity in appearance to one another and which are distinct in appearance from other groups, right? So the similarity and the differences that they share among each other, they both contribute, or help us to ascertain which is what species, and that is exactly what on the basis of which that we divide the species on, right? So species are defined on the basis of both similarities and differences. Let's go to the second section of the question. So the king's son was, so this is basically, as you might see as it reads also, that we'll have to find out words from the given option that are nearest in meaning. So nearest in meaning mean that we have to basically go for synonyms, right? Different words with the same meaning. So standing there, let's go to our first sentence. Let's look at our first sentence. The king's son was banished due to political rivalry. Banished to exile, right? To give away, to ask to go far. So thus deported is the word that goes well with banished. He gave a dazzling performance at the opera. So dazzling means something which is very vibrant, something which is very, glittery in its appearance. So does the word that goes the best with the sentence, and as dazzling implies the meaning of in the given sentence. So that's brilliant. Speaking about the next sentence, she rebuffed all suggestion from her friends. So rebuffed means not accepting. So not accepting can also be termed as rejecting. So thus rejected is the word that goes with it. He disowned his loyal legacy and became a commoner. So you see the word disowned has the word owned in it. So the word own means to possess something, to have something in your power. So disowned is so you're having something out of your power, right? So abandoned, leaving something is the word that is basically very similar to the word underlined in the sentence itself. Lastly, the public was skeptical about the new government policy. Skeptical means having a lot of doubts about something, not being sure about something, being at the sea with something, confused with something. So the skeptical is basically doubtful. Great then, going to the next part. As you might see, this is basically rearrangement of jumbled sentences. So the first sentence reads, include basic freedom, the fundamental rights are guaranteed to the individual's basic rights and. So we'll first have to understand what exactly is the sentence about and which is the action in here. So see, the action that I can see in here is include basic freedom. So the action, the verb being performed in the sentence is to include basic freedom. So who is doing that? Let's just find out the subject first. So the fundamental rights are, so the fundamental right is basically the thing which includes basic freedom, right? So the fundamental rights immediately become the subject of the sentence, thus making Q the first part of the sentence. So the fundamental rights are what? So are what? Are basic rights and include basic freedoms guaranteed to the individual. Thus, it's going to be QSPR. So the fundamental rights being the subject starts the sentence off, and are what? Are basic rights and include basic freedom, the guaranteed to the individual. So the fundamental rights are basic rights and they include basic freedoms that are guaranteed to the individual. Thus the option QSPR is the right option. Going to the second sentence, for many millennia been in the making of a historical process that has the Indian nation is the product. So here the Indian nation is the product. So the sentence is about the Indian nation, right? So this becomes the subject immediately, and obviously we start the sentence with this as well. The Indian nation is the product, so this becomes the first part of the sentence. So the word that we associate with product, the word that actually follows product is of, the product of these two numbers, right? So people who are into maths, you might just know also that we basically ask a question where we ask students to find out the product of these two numbers, right? So standing there, since the starting of the sentence is the Indian nation is the product, so we'll have to understand after that. So the Indian nation is the product of what? So we search for the word of, so we find it here. So the Indian nation is the product of a historical process that has been in the making for many millennia. So it's SRQP, right? So SRQP is the right option. After that, let's proceed. So you see India's independence represented. So this is going to be the first part of the sentence, right? India's independence represented for its people. Represented for whom? Represented for its people. India's independence represented for its people the start of what? The start of an epoch that was imbued with a new vision. So the India's independence represented for whom? For its people, the start of what? An epoch that was imbued with what? With a new vision. So that makes it SQPR, right? So that makes it SQPR. Great then. Going to the next sentence. Science and Mathematics exhibition for a discussion on the forthcoming to be present before the principal, all students. So I believe that people who are into colleges and school know this, that whenever students are being notified something about a decision or opinion from the higher authority, so it starts with the notion of that students are hereby instructed or students are hereby being made aware. So you see, we do have that phrase in the sentence. So we start our sentence with this: all students have been instructed, right? So this becomes inevitably the first part of the sentence. All students have been instructed. Instructed to do what? So instructed to be present. So all the students have been instructed to be present before the principal. Well, for what? Principal, for a discussion on the forthcoming what? Forthcoming science and mathematics exhibition. Right? So that is SRQP. Right? So that's SRQP. All students have been instructed to be present before the principal for a discussion on the forthcoming science and mathematics exhibition. Going to the next sentence: two bowlers and two batsmen respectively to the new team with the selection of another player the team now has. So we can understand that it's all started with the selection of a new player, right? So standing there with the selection of a new player becomes the first part of the sentence. So where was the player selected to? The player was selected to the new team. So with the selection of another player to the new team, the team now has two bowlers and two batsmen respectively. So with the selection of another player to the team, there was another player who was selected to the team, making the team having two bowlers and two batsmen. So with the selection of another player, that is the first part. So R, to the new team, so RQ, the team now has RQSP. So RQSP is the right option, right? Moving forward. So here we'll have to identify that the underlined word belongs to which which class, which word class does the underlined words of a sentence belong to, right? So if you might just see and look at the first sentence, it reads, "You're most welcome to visit my humble abode." So abode is basically a noun, and humble thus is an adjective, right? So humble abode is basically noun. The next sentence is, the situation is beyond our control. Where is the situation? Beyond our control. So you look at what I'm questioning it with. Where basically tells us about the possession of something, right? So the situation being the subject, the noun also, this being an article, the definite article. So situation is a noun. Where is the situation? It's beyond our control, right? So the word beyond being underlined. So beyond is basically preposition because it's telling us about the possession of the noun in a sentence. Looking at the next sentence, we have, I didn't tell him anything except that I needed the money. So you see, it's basically I didn't and I needed, right? So one subject been repeated twice, which tells us that these are basically two sentences merged together. So this is done with the help of the word except, and we know that the words that basically helps to conjugate two sentences together are basically conjunctions. So except here is a conjunction, right? Moving forward, he dry cleaned my coat nicely. So he did what? He dry cleaned my coat. How did he do it? He did it very nicely. So something, this word nicely is qualifying the verb. Cleaning the coat, he cleaned the coat. So cleaning was the verb and he did it very nicely, right? So nicely here is an adverb. Lastly, looking at our last question from this section, would you like to buy this new item? So here I am basically helping whosoever I'm asking the question to understand and point out to a very specific item which is basically available among many, right? So would you like to buy this item? So this thus becomes a determiner. Great then. Proceeding forward. So here we'll have to choose the correct alternative as we have in the options with the sentence with the pre-given sentence which we have, with the part of sentence which we have been given here already. So the first sentence read, he paused for, right? He paused for a few moments. So here, for a few moments is the right answer. Late at night, our car. So you see the option broke up is not the word we use for cars, right? So we use that for the relationships we have. Broke into, so we say that the vase broke into several pieces, but a car cannot really broke into several pieces, can it? So these two are wrong. Lastly, we have broke out. So broke out is something which has a completely different meaning. At times you might have heard celebrities or maybe someone giving an interview which is basically on skin, and they can say that I'm breaking out a lot lately, right? So breaking out mostly refers to, you know, having pimples on your face. So thus this too is wrong, and thus the first option is the right option. Broke down, not being functional anymore on the highway for a given period of time. All the countries signed the treaty beneath Germany and France. So beneath, being down beneath someone does not really make sense. So this is not there. Except Germany and France, among Germany and France. So among Germany and France. So if there was Germany and France only in the option, then how do we have the option of having anyone else included in there as well? So this is not correct. During Germany and France, so during is basically a word that we associate with time periods, and Germany and France are proper nouns, thus this too again is wrong. So the correct option is except. I reminded her to turn off the lights, to call off the lights. So lights cannot be called off, right? Because lights are material noun and they do not have the ability, right, to hear someone out. So we cannot call them off. To drop off, so no one can suggest or ask someone to drop off a light. And to break off, so definitely the speaker was not really insane that he will ask someone to break the lights off. So the right option is to turn off, right? So whenever it comes down to electrical appliances being switched off, so we can say please turn off the light or please turn off the fan, right? Proceeding forward, they told us about a woman whom. So whom is not something that we can use with a noun being used. So it's who, because who is a pronoun that we can use with nouns which already mentioned here. So who lived next door? Question number 26. I'll see you on the end of February. So no, on is not something which is a situational possession, and thus on cannot be used. Along the end of February, so along, we can say along the river, but we cannot say along the February because February itself does not have a physical entity for the same. For the end of February, so for the end of February, so that's a period, right? So that's very uncertain, and thus we can obliviate that as well. So I'll see you at the end of February is the right option. I dislike film. Who, whose, whom. So these three are the pronouns that we use for humans, right? But films are basically material, right? They are not human. They're material, like something which there, but it's like does not have a life in it. It's not a form of life, right? So we go with that have sad endings. Question number 28 states the thieves denied. So you see, denied having stealing. So after having, we can never use stealing. We go with the participle form of the verb. So having stealing is the wrong option. The thieves denied stealing the money, right? So the thieves denied that no, we didn't. They didn't steal the money. So thus the thieves denied stealing the money will be the right option. Did you drop out? So dropping out is basically to discontinue. So thus this is not a right option. Drop in to see in. So yes, drop in. So we at times we say also that okay, fine, if you're not doing well, if possible, and whenever it's convenient, I'll drop in to meet you for a while, right? So drop in is the right option. Would you like to? So after to, we cannot use the second or third or fifth form of the verb. So we always write the first form. Would you like to meet her is the right option. Great, then moving forward. So this section is basically the section on idioms. As you know, idioms is basically a part of figurative speech, right? That helps us to make our speech be a bit more appealing and stand out from the crowd. So B, bad news. This is not something I really expect anyone to guess in general. So B, bad news. The meaning of being a bad news is basically being someone who is considered undesirable in general. Speaking about the next one, back to the drawing board. So back to the drawing board. So it's basically to start planning again because the previous plan has failed. Be in the eye of a storm. So we can actually, the meaning is to be among controversy, to be in a controversy because of some adverse situation. So thus it is to be in the midst of a controversy. Life in a fast lane, as the phrases itself imply, life in the fast lane is basically an exciting and eventful lifestyle, and to pass the buck is to shift responsibility of something to someone. Proceeding forward, this is basically selecting the right verb as agreement to the subject, right? So this is a part of subject verb agreement and the right form of the verb being used. So the Earth's climate is dash changing and evolving. So passionately, again, it's a very human-like quality, and Earth is not a human, right? So deadly changing cannot be the right adjective to go with, right adverb to go with. Thoughtfully, so again, Earth cannot think, thus thoughtfully again is a human-like character. So it's continually, right? Persistently changing. So the Earth's climate is continually changing and evolving. So you see, this and that is there, but there are Earth's climate is continually changing and evolving, right? So you see, there is also I've read here as well that it's changing. So there is not one thing, right? The changes are happening over and over again. So there also it says changes. So since this is in a plural form, this and that definitely are not going to be the option. It will be these, because we are speaking about the change right now. So these changes have been due to natural causes, but others can be attributed to practical activities. Well, practical activities, it's very unclear. Practical activities like what? Of whom? Geological activities, well, geological activities cannot contribute to a change of something in general. Animal activities, well, animal exist in a very organic way as they're supposed to exist, and they were there and they're inevitable as the creation. But we humans, at times we do things. So human activities such as deforestation. So if you might just look at the action of deforestation itself, deforestation is something that animals cannot do, right? So humans activities such as deforestation, emission from industries and transport, etc., which have led to dash, so assimilation of gases and aerosols in dash atmosphere, in this atmosphere of the earth, right? So here we use the definite article and it will be in the atmosphere. These gases are known as greenhouse gases because they trap heat and raise air temperature, hike, rise, balance. So obviously they trap the heat, they cannot balance the temperature. They cannot, actually they raise the temperature. Rise is basically the happening itself, raise is the verb. So here we see that the greenhouse gases are doing something, so we cannot really go with rise, because a rise is the happening, right? We see a rise in the prices of share. So rise is the process happening, but we gonna go with the verb. So they raise. As do we say that, our mother raised us, or maybe, the polar bear mother is basically raising her cubs. So standing there, it will be raised. Air temperature near the ground acting like a greenhouse on the surface of the planet. So it will be the planet, the surface of Earth, right? So if you might just know that our Earth has layers, right? So the first layer, the uppermost layer where we all stay, is called the crust. Then as we go deeper, it's called mantle. And the innermost layer is called the core. So as you might see that crust, core and mantle all are mentioned in here. So I was seeing certain live videos online also where they're claiming the answer is going to be crust. Well, no, it's not going to be crust, because I'll tell you why. Acting like a greenhouse on the surface of. So here we are not speaking about surface. So the emphasis is not about the positioning. The emphasis is basically on the surface of what? So the surface of planet Earth is itself called crust. So we cannot go for the surface of crust. So it's the surface of the planet Earth, right? in order to create and strengthen the scientific and analytical capacity for assessment. So whenever we take an assessment and we do take precautions and steps and actions, so it's doing something for something, right? So suppose I am buying someone a bouquet of flowers. I'm buying a bouquet of flowers for someone. So here also we are basically greenhouse on the surface in order to create and strengthen the scientific and analytical capacity for assessing, right? So for assessment of climate change in the country, different studies under the climate change action program are initiated, because have developed and have initiated cannot be there in the given conjugation of the sentence. So our initiative will be the right option. Many important bilateral and multilateral meetings and negotiations are held at regular interval. So whenever we use the word regular interval, we are basically referring to a definite frequency. So anytime, just as you say, so in that question also where I've said that I'll meet you at the end of the February, right? So whenever there is a specific time chronology, we go with the word at. So we say that meetings and negotiations are held at regular intervals. Great, then proceeding forward. So here we have been asked to take out the opposite of meaning, which basically tells us that these are question on antonyms, right? So the first one is Mohan was living in a deplorable condition. So deplorable is something which is very similar to reprehensible, opprobrious, and despicable. So we're going to go with the word commendable, which is like very nice, right? Something which is praiseworthy. So this is going to be the right opposite to deplorable. These exercises will counteract the effects of stress and tension. So counteract means to come up with a opposite reaction. So here exacerbate is basically the word that we are looking for, because exacerbate means to make something worse in general, to make a situation worsen over time is basically what exacerbate means. So that is going to be the word. You have to persevere with difficult students. So persevere means being very consistent. Thus, giving up is the right opposite. Their new color scheme is hideous. So hideous means something which is horrible, right? So thus beautiful could be the most appropriate meaning among the given option. Everywhere they go, they squander their earnings. So squander means spending extravagantly without being stressed about anything, without worrying, without having a proper calculation of something. So the appropriate opposite among the available option could be manage. So I think I had my paper till here. From here, it starts from history. So if you think that you do have a problem with understanding any of the questions that I might have explained, since I think also that I've mentioned in a very fleeting and tangent way, you can please comment and ask us wherever your queries are, right? And also more, as you might already know, that NDA is basically what we prepare for in our organization also. So if you need more information on what do we exactly do here, what we do in our classes and all, please get back to us as soon as possible. We are looking forward to that. So I will conclude my paper in here. I hope to see you guys again. Take good care and have a beautiful time ahead.